Hi friends, Julie Torrance here. So we're going to be doing, this is I don't know if it's a subscriber, but it's a viewer's request. How do I make the things that I have for sale as printables? So that's what I'm working on. This is pine cones, and all I did, this is one layer, and these are just sort of upside down triangle shapes to try to create an oval and then a stick up on top. One color, nothing special. So it's the first layer. So I'm going to be using a dark shade, and it is Premarite Genuine. So this is my Daniel Smith's. So this is a paint that is made from a real mineral. And I'm just going to go now, and this color is going to be darker than what I have, and I'm just going to fill in around. So, how are you doing? What's happening in your world? I brought you in very close, so I'm hoping that it is focusing on my brush, my work and not my brush, but I'm just putting in some darkness. Now this will dry lighter than what you see, and that's called the shift. If the colors shift, then they get lighter. Did I say darker? It's going to be lighter than what you see. But this is how I work on these. There's no computer, nothing. What you get when you get one of my printables from PM Artist Studio is my watercolor work. Now, if you know an easier or a better way, tell me in the comments. I'm not talking about computer stuff because I know how to do that type of graphic design, but I mean just if you watercolor pine cones and you have a better way to do it than I'm doing it, let me know. I don't want my paint too thick because it's not gouache, which is almost like tempera paints, but I don't want it so thin that it's just running all over. I do want the full darkness of this brown for these pine cones. And this is just layer 2 of what's going to be multiple layers. Now, one thing that's lost when these are printed is that this particular paint has a little bit of a shimmer. It's not a shimmer paint, but because it's made right from that mineral, you do get some of the results of it. I need a little more water. You do get the results of the ground up mineral that won't fade into the paper but lays on top. And so you get this little bit of a shimmery effect. It's pretty, but you don't look at it and say, oh, she used shimmer paints. No. All right, I'm going to give this a stem. Good. Okay. Give this one a stem. So it is October 31st for me. This is in the past, Julie. So we haven't been out trick-or-treating yet, but my grandson will be going tonight. I'm not sure at this point if I'm going to go because it's cold and I sit in the cold for very long and I will just stiffen up and freeze up. I just have to be careful. You'll have to let me know in the comments what happened for you on Halloween. Did you have a lot of visitors, or maybe where you live you don't get visitors at all. Where I live, they completely ignore Halloween on purpose because of their we have open hallways. So when you open my door, you're outside, but it's well covered. You're in a almost like a carport sort of a situation where you're not standing in the rain, but you're standing in the wind. It's rare that the rain or the snow makes it to my door. Never say never, but it usually doesn't. But because of that, and then our steps are concrete, it's just too dangerous for kids in costumes, and some wear masks, to go trucking up and down those stairs. So they just don't want anything to do with it. But you just don't see, at least here in Michigan, when I lived in the Detroit area and living here in Grand Rapids, you don't see as much trick-or-treat action as it used to be. And there's a lot of trunk or treats that go on. And there's other, like, just people have Halloween parties for their kids. So there's just not that much door-to-door trick-or-treating as there used to be. Now, I realize that the triangles might be seeming a bit dark, but we're going to be highlighting them. I don't know if we'll get to that today. This is just getting too thick, too goopy. So I'm going to put some up here. And it's not that I didn't know you were coming, so I didn't clean my palette there, but those are the colors I'm using, and so the leftover colors I can re-wet, and so I just don't want to waste all that. But these are going to get highlighted, and they're going to get some snow. So if you're looking at it right now thinking, wow, that's just too dark, you have to have dark if you're going to create light. Yep. They're definitely looking more like pine cones to me with this new layer. Yep, they are. So we had some snow yesterday, just a flurry, just a few flakes. And we've got snow in the forecast pretty much all day, but it is just flurries. And as I said in another video, it was 75 degrees a week ago. So, yeah, when I went to the post office Tuesday last week, it was 75 degrees. So the ground is not froze. At my son and daughter-in-law's, their backyard is literally wet. So I don't think we're going to have any accumulation, but they're saying an inch, what are they saying? Like a trace or a coating? That's what they're saying, a coating to an inch. So, you know, it may stand up a little bit on the grass, but I think the concrete and definitely the roads, nah, it's too warm. We might get a little bit on the grass, but wouldn't surprise me if we don't even get that much. So there are those that feel like if I make a video like this, then people are going to just make their own and not buy anybody's printables. No, I don't worry about that at all. First of all, if you can watch me do this and then you can do it, good. If this inspired you to make your own, my whole thing with my YouTube channel is I want to see art be accessible. And if this is what it took for you to feel like, oh yeah, I can do some snow-covered pine cones, good. Let me know in the comments. I'm serious, because I want people to be able to do this on their own. Some people, it's not their desire to do it on their own. They would rather buy a printable, fussy cut it, and create their cards and their journals and their book covers, and that's fantastic. But I don't worry about teaching what I do, and that means no one is going to be interested in what I do because they can just do it themselves. It doesn't work that way. Don't be afraid to show people how you do what you do, whether you're rubber stamping or you're card making or pottery or whatever you do, jewelry making. There's a lot of people who don't do that because they're not interested in doing it. Okay, so that's going to dry. So now here is, now this has 2 layers, these little evergreens. So let's work on some of those. I'm going to take that same brown, plus I've got some brown over here, so I'll just kind of mix those 2 up. They're fine. And I'm going to go ahead and start a tree with a trunk. And the trunks do get bigger as the tree gets taller. Okay, let's do another one. Now, if you notice, the tree that is the furthest to my left is kind of a bright green, or maybe more of a olivey green. And then the next 3 that I did here are more of a blue green. I was thinking like a blue spruce kind of a look. And I'm making the trunks a little irregular because that's how they are. They're not straight up and down like a shower pole. All right, now, what color are we going to go with? I've got a lot of this green right here, and I like it. And I'm just going to start by using it. And I'm just going to start with some basic branches. Now, I put green at the very top because I think that's how it tends to look. So I'm just going to be bringing out these branches. You got to remember, you've got some coming towards you here. Some trees grow right to the bottom, some don't. But so far, I've been making them go right to the bottom. Okay, there's one. And let's start with another one. Sometimes towards the top, they'll even have 2. I didn't make any like that this time. But I'm just kind of making like an upside down fan shape. Now some trees, especially the side that faces north, which we have no idea which of these would face north, the tree is more tortured, less full because of wind and such. But we don't know which way these trees are facing, and I'm not looking for realistic. I'm just looking for trees. so that when someone looks at it, they say, oh yeah, that's an evergreen tree. I hope. Yeah, we're doing good. I like this. Maybe I'll end this one here. A little bit higher up than the others, because that's what they do. Okay. Should we do one more row of trees? Here's where sometimes I'm just not sure. I'm adding some more of that same brown that I used in my pine cones. And I'll just go into this green that I was using, mix it up with the brown. Yeah. Okay. And one more row of trees. Maybe I'll make this row just a little bit bigger. So I need to move over a little bit. Getting fatter. Good. Can I fit one more? I think so. Pressing more to create just a little heavier. All right. Now, a green. Going into a Cascade green, which is a different color of green again. I don't know if you can see this part. And then I'm going to go into this. This one's called Green Appetite Genuine. This has a good granulation, this second color, and it will break off into a little bit of brown here and there. And I like the way that looks. Okay, I'm going to get, I've got water. I had water on the ferrule and I don't want it to come rolling down and all of a sudden I get a big bloop. Just like a wavy lines in a upside down fan shape. You can do that. I know you can. These are going to be for fussy cutting is my thought. All right. And now our last tree here. I'm going to speed things up now that you've seen me do this a few times. Now the trunks are a little bit wet, so the paint is ever so slightly spreading a little bit into the trunk. That's fine. And a few way down. Okay, good. All right, now I think these are dry enough. I'm switching over to my, whoop, threw it in the water. This is my liner brush. See when I get it wet? Can you see? And I honestly don't care what green I go into. I'm going to start using this last color of green that I made. And I'm going to start filling in with some little pine needles. And it's just like like a comb. And those things grow on the trunk as well. And they grow right off the end. These are kind of more furry. Maybe it would be more of a long needle type. And sometimes I'll just go ahead and add a little branch. Little twiggy ones. I just put some on that trunk. Now maybe you're looking at these and saying, well, I'd sure never buy that as a Christmas tree. Well, Christmas trees that you buy have been groomed and groomed and groomed and trimmed and trimmed and trimmed along the way so that they grow more like a traditional Christmas tree, how we would expect it to look. But when they're in the forest or in your backyard or even in like the medium of or along the edge of an expressway, they run into issues with storms and animals and all kinds of different things. Acid rain. Okay. And let's work on this one. Now I brought you in close, hoping that you can see better. So I hope that's the result. You can see this takes time. And you really, I don't know how to rush this. But I enjoy it. I think it's very relaxing. And I think it's always a surprise because watercolor doesn't always dry predictably. Just doesn't. So you really don't know what you've created till it's nice and dry. I may put in with some of these after I get the snow on them, because this is for my winter collection. I may stick like a cardinal or things like that. That tree had some trouble, whatever year that was, as it was growing. But that's fine. Maybe that was the year of the terrible drought. Or maybe that was the year that someone decided to take a couple of branches out for firewood. Who knows? No way to know. Unless the tree starts talking. I know that there's animals that will in the winter eat the greens, but I don't remember which ones. Okay, poor little tree. I'm going to get some of this color that I can't pronounce. Green, Appetite, Genuine. I know it's not Appetite, but I don't know what it is. It's close to that. I've been busy this morning. I went at first thing. We're allowed to use the laundry rooms after 8 a.m. And that's just about when I was there. So I've already got my laundry done, which is one of my typical Tuesday things, is to get my laundry done on Tuesday. I work tomorrow is Wednesday. So I'll be napping during the day because I work at night. So I kind of have to change my eating and my sleeping patterns on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday because I'm working. That's okay. I'm so happy that I have a good job. I'm just lengthening these out a little bit. Get some little twiggy ones in there. Okay. Yep. I like that. These little things that are falling on my paper, they're bits of the paint coming off of my brush. I try very hard to take good care of my brushes, but they do end up sometimes losing their paint. The biggest reason for that is if you leave them in the water too long, and they will have trouble with the wood swelling, and then the paint comes off of your handles. And I mean, if you leave your brushes overnight and they're wood, or even for several hours, doesn't have to be overnight, the wood will swell, and you just end up ruining your brushes. So I always recommend to avoid that. Okay, it looks like the green here needs just a little bit more darkening than what I'm doing, which is fine. I'm just going to add a little bit of a darker green. But the top would be the lightest anyway because it's the newest. But I'm going to start adding a little darker green. And then when that's dry up above where I'm painting, I will add a few more of the darker and it'll be fine. Might be just where some light is hitting it right at the time. And this is just one style of evergreen. This is not the only kind of evergreens that I paint, but I just thought for fussy cutting, I like the detail in this. I think it's cool. Stick a little skinnier branch here. Once it's all covered with snow, you won't see as much anyway. But if you don't do this inner work, the outer work doesn't work. You know, you got to do this in your layers. But if I just skip putting any kind of detail as far as what's on these branches and I just laid snow on branches, it wouldn't look right. Enough of this will poke through to make it look like you want it to look. Yep, I'm liking this. Sometimes when you see the process, it doesn't look like the first time you saw it. Like you might think these don't look like these, but they'll blend, they'll homogenize out so that they look like they belong together. I promise. Now, one thing you can do right at the base, but I'm thinking of these being in snow, but if I was doing them in grass, I would probably put some brown needles at the very bottom under it because they do shed. Oh boy, do they shed. And you end up with just some brown needles stacked underneath. When I lived in North Carolina, those needles were collected. They were bundled like in hay bale type style, and you bought them and they were used as mulch. And it was pretty. It was a pretty mulch. I like that look. I know I've got some people watching that are from North Carolina, so hello from Western Michigan to North Carolina. Pretty place. Very pretty. I lived in the Winston-Salem area. Does that sound familiar? Winston-Salem, two cigarette brands. Yep, that was now this was, 30 years ago, but I think it was Philip Morris. They were one of the biggest places that people worked, and there were still a lot of tobacco farms, a lot of tobacco workers. We already had like areas in restaurants that were smoke free. We didn't have it where, not too much, where cities had just deemed all public areas to have to be smoke free, but restaurants would have like smoking sections and stuff. Do you remember that? Um, Hotels would have smoking and non-smoking rooms. Now they're just all non-smoking, which I think is fine. But in Winston-Salem, oh no, there was no such thing as smoking sections and non-smoking sections. Smoking was encouraged. People smoked on elevators, people smoked on buses, people smoked everywhere. In the grocery store. Yes, not many, but there you see the occasional person looking over the meat counter or picking out their oranges and smoking cigarette at the same time. Sure enough, different lifestyle. That's why living in so many different places in the United States, I've often said, it made me a richer person. I learned so much. Okay, doesn't that look good? I'm liking these trees. Yep. So now this is going to dry. Let's go back to our pine cones. So the next step with them is I'm going to be starting to add the needles to this, but it's a different process. So I'm going to start out, believe it or not, with yellow. And I'm loading up my liner brush here. I really we don't have time for that. Get a bigger brush and get some of this yellow out here, but I don't want it goopy. I want it to be thinner and real flowy. What's the name of this color? Cadmium yellow hue. So that hue means that they didn't use real cadmium, but just they used, I'm going to just put a couple drops of water in there. There we go. They used a dye or some other minerals or something to create that. Now I'm just going to start adding some, needles. Just like that. Can you see? Yep. And I'm not putting them along the whole branch. Just here and there, because they really don't always cover a whole branch. They just kind of come out fan-like. So, yep, we're starting out with the yellow. Those of you who are still with me, I'm sure that some folks have already said this is way too slow, but someone wanted to see the process, and that's what I'm doing. Now you might say, how are you going to fussy cut all those needles? Well, this isn't going to be all the needles. There's going to be more. And I think once all the needles are on these branches, you'll be fine. You know, take a look at some of the ephemera that you buy. Tim Holtz. A lot of you buy Tim Holtz. I've bought in Tim Holtz. But they're not all cut following every little nook and cranny and curve. Not at all. Put one more little group here. Right over the pine cone. Yep. Okay. We are going at it. I'm going to see if I can grab just a little more yellow. Again, these layers of color is what, in my opinion, makes it look so rich. There's just a little bit of blue sneaking in, and every once in a while I get a green stroke. That's fine. Get a little more water. Yep. Is it starting to look like something to you? Let me know in the comments. When you added the yellow, it looked what? You tell me. Ridiculous? Okay. Now I made just a couple little branches with no pine cone that you can use as a filler. That's how I saw it. You may just have a little space that won't fit a pine cone, but that you'd like a little greenery or a little punch. All right. Oh, no, two more. Sorry. All right, I'm going to get my bigger brush. Get some more yellow in that space. There we go. There we go. Now, if you notice, with the paints that I'm using, these are Daniel Smith, I'm not getting a lot of the brown lifting up, which for me is a good quality. I mean, there are times I want to lift, but I have to specifically work on it that way. And today is not one of those days that I want to have a lot of lifting. Okay, now I think I'm going to just let this dry for a sec because I do not want to lose the yellow. So I'm going to go back to the trees, and I'm going to add some more to these now. And I want to grab a totally different green. Let's see, or maybe I'm going to add some aquamarine to this green that I've got. Yep. And then I want to add some of that green, that apatite, because it's the one that will break off into different colors when it gets on the paper. And I want to add some of this darker to some of these branches. And you may say you don't see it. You will. And again, I'm not necessarily going everywhere, but it's just some of the darker needles here and there, because they are different colors, just with the different way the light hits them and all. I'm not looking to fill it in like I did the first time. These needles show up more on the brown, which is good. And I already did that to these first ones that I made. And yeah, if I see a spot that seems a little bare, yeah, I'll put some more in as well. Now see if you can see a difference between like this tree and that tree. This brush that I'm using does not hold a lot of paint. That's why I have to keep dipping. It's almost like using a quill and a pen that you have to keep dipping in the inkwell, because it does not hold a lot of paint. It doesn't have a heavy belly, as they would say. It's not a particularly expensive brush either. Master's Touch, that means I got it at Hobby Lobby. I believe that's where the Master's Touch are. All right. Yep, I like that. I'm gonna take the little brush. I'm going into that blue, and I've just added a little bit of blue. And here we go on this one. I believe this is what makes your painting richer, and I wouldn't say more believable, but just every layer adds goodness. And so you're just getting more goodness when you put more layers. Now, you have to know when to stop. You can overwork a painting, but we're not there yet. And that's just something that practice, you'll get the hang of it. And it's opinion. You know, you may think that I'm overworking this right now, you know, and that's fine. I know that I've got to add some snow in here, and I don't want that to just obliterate everything. So if I don't have a good foundation here for snow, then the snow is just going to overtake. All right, good. One more. Good. I am almost out of paint here, but it was also getting pretty heavy, thick. So let's add just a little water. So if you decide when these become available, and I will let you know, to pick up one of these, they'll be on sale when they first come out. You'll have to let me know that you saw the process. Okay, now these trees, as far as green and all, I would say they're done. The next step for these trees is going to be the snow. Over here, I'm going to be putting some leaves because I've got some winter flowers and I want leaves to go with the flowers. So that's what's going to go here. But we're just going to work on these. So let's get another step, and I'm going to grab a bigger brush, and I want to come up with a little bit of a lighter green. I've got this yellow over here. I'm going to add that apatite green to it. Now the yellow is not as transparent as a lot of the watercolor. I just added some of the Cascade green. I'm going to just add some more yellow and then some more Cascade green, or one of these greens. This is that apatite green, because I want just a little more paint in the well. All right, this looks like a good color. And it's not completely blended. I don't care if, over here it's a little lighter and over there it's a little darker. All right, let's get where you can see me. Well, I got to be able to reach though, but we're going to be working up here, so you'll be able to see. Maybe you can see the paint. All right, here we go. Yep. Are you seeing it? What do you think? Makes a difference, huh? I'm liking it. You have to let me know what you think in the comments. And again, I'm not blurring out the yellow because I'm using watercolor paper and I'm using professional level paints. So that's why, like, I'm not just losing the yellow. Now, do you always have to use professional paints? No. I use good student grade paints often because the work I'm doing, this project that you see me doing, it's going to be for print. And so I don't worry about light fastness. I don't worry about that. But I picked the Daniel Smiths because I know I'm doing an awful lot of layering. And I really don't want colors lifting. They're predictable. I know what they're going to do. So it's, it's all of that kind of thing. Now I am making the green this first layer of green a little bit longer than the yellow, because that's how, when I look at evergreen branches, that's how it looks to me. The yellow don't seem to be as long. They're more inside, closer to the stems or the sticks or the branches. Some areas are getting more green than others, some less. That's fine. Oop. My brush kind of got a snag in it. That's all right. Could have been where a bird landed and kind of broke a few of the needles. Yep. None of this is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Just go with it. One of the things I like about watercolor, what are you out? You know, am I using a nickel's worth of paint? I doubt it. But I'm having a great time. So if I ends up that I'm thinking, I really don't care for this. Whoops. That was just a Woohoo glue stick. If I feel like I don't like it, pitch it. No problem. I mean, don't get yourself frustrated. It's not worth it. But, you know, just be happy you gave it a try. I do recommend that you get some watercolor paper. Now, I'm using what I think is a very good quality watercolor paper, but it is cellulose. You'll hear people talk about 100% cotton. Yes, but I think you can get very good results with a good cellulose paper. And a lot of very well-known, I'm not in that league, very well-known watercolorists agree. Canson XL, good brand, good quality cellulose paper. Strathmore 400, you can buy that, I believe, at Walmart, is good. This is Amazon Basic. Now it comes, I want to say it was 9 by 12 was the smallest I could get. But I cut it down to 8.5 by 11 because that's the size that we're gonna, most people are using. Okay, this needs to dry a little bit. And then we would start highlighting. I can start highlighting because it's not that wet. I'm grabbing a white gel, and this is a Jelly Roll 10 from Sakura. And I like it, but it's not my favorite. I don't know, I have a favorite, but I think I hid it from myself because this is another Jelly Roll Sakura like I just showed you. I've got a Uniball that someone gifted me, but I want to use these up first because once I use that Uniball, I'll never go back to these. All right, this is a white pen, and I am just going to start highlighting these. It's the seed part, which is the triangle parts. And I'm just putting a little bit of white on the top of each one. Now I'm going to be putting snow on, but this is just more of a highlight of the light that's playing in the pine cone itself. So it's not really to represent the snow. I think once we put the snow in, it might be hard to kind of decide what's what as far as what is highlight and what is snow, but that's fine. Again, it's one of those layers that I think is important. But I also think it's when I do this, it starts to look more more like a pine cone. And this is where the mixed media comes in. My winter pictures are definitely mixed media. Yes, I'm using a lot of watercolor, but I've got acrylic, I've got gel pen, I've got other things in there. Frankly, I think that the acrylic white, when I add snow, is even better than my white gouache. And when you're printing, I want that a little bit of exaggeration. All right, I'm liking that. Okay, a couple more. Let me know in the comments if you want to see the next step, because I know this video is already getting long. And I don't want to overburden. Like I always say, I'm not a feature film. I'm not the Super Bowl. People aren't going to be watching my videos for 2.5 hours. I don't think. If you are, let me know in the comments. Yeah. Oh, I'm teasing. I know my hand might be kind of in the way of this, but you'll get the drift. We're almost done here. Oh, one more. Yep. Okay. So the next layer is going to be more green. And the next layer on this one is going to be the snow. And then I may add a couple little red cardinals here and there. All right. I want to thank you so much. You've been with me this long today. Why not subscribe? It's a perfect day to subscribe. Go ahead and click the bell and then put it so that it will send you notifications and you'll know when I'm up to the next layer of this. In the meantime, thumbs up. Thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in another video. Bye now.